Settings.
Nice settings indeed. Well, nonetheless, it's Team Liquid. It's Red Devils. We go to Bank and a Capitao ban. Going to be the first casualty to the ban phase, and not surprising given the new radius of those asphyxiating bolts. We've seen examples in other competitive scenarios of that asphyxiating bolt doing a lot of damage. It's Glass going to be second taken off the board, so you lose the Glass, you lose the Capitao. You still have all three of your hard breachers on Bank. It's not typically a scenario we find ourselves on, but today we will. First Defender ban coming out on the side of Team Liquid will be banning out Echo. Not a big shock again, considering the region, although Zig does like playing as Echo. He can still do really well on the Maestro, and it'll be Red Devils to ban out the last Defender. It'll be Mira. So no big shocks coming out on the Defender side, as per usual. We don't see a Jaeger ban like we just saw. We don't see a Smoke ban. There's a lot of plant denial still left at the behest of the Defenders, and Red Devils will be starting on the defense to start things off.
We're going to see a Bank map with, or we're going to see a Bank matchup without a hard breacher being banned.
Yep.
Peculiar.
Very.
Very peculiar. A lot of times it's Hibana, just simply because of how good she is at being able to open up walls from great lengths. Hatches as well. Think about the way that you typically attack that bottom floor, which is where Red Devils will be starting off on, which is the locker CCTV bomb sites. You take a thermite down into server, you open up the server wall, you bring a Hibana, and you get the 3 hatches upstairs. Possibly 2 if you don't want to get the one inside of Skylight, possibly 3 if you want to get the one inside of Elevator. Or if you want to go for a vault take, you can possibly get the one at the teller's desk. But that's not going to be the case. You're going to have every single hard breach available. And while it's not like Clubhouse where you see some teams run 3 hard breachers, there's going to be no Maverick on the board for Liquid, it's a no-brainer that they're going to bring both a Thermite as well as a Hibana, and then it's exactly the case.
Well, it was a really nice 6-pick from Sexy Cake as well, who flexed the Nomad in reveal phase and then swapped over to the Hibana. So you're already instilling a little bit of fear into the defense as far as their roaming capabilities and what kind of flanks they could pull off. You've also got a reinforced hatch now inside of Stock Hallway. That's the middle of open area hatch. Zion finishing up the reinforcements, and as you noted, it will be hit absent from this game, replaced by Zion in this game. So Red Devils, again, with this slight tweaking to the roster, see if they can make any effective changes with it, but it looks like Red Devils are going to go for a multi-tiered defense here. You've got a reinforcement up on that printer wall, you've got a reinforcement directly above midi, inside of open area in the Stock Hallway on the top floor. Just potential for a peel back here for Red Devils. Stand and fight inside of open area, kill some time, and maybe drag one down with you, but for Red Devils, there's not a lot to counter really on the side of the attacking side for Team Liquid. Their operators, I mean, now you've got Nesk bringing a Twitch. He's going to be entering in through Garage, and he's going to have a lot of fun with that F2.
Nesk likes to enter through Garage when they play on Bank. He stashes a drone actually above him, his current position on the pipes, and is known to just walk right in. Now, with a Maestro being available, a lot of teams will run that Maestro down where the broken wall is, in the Garage, but that's not really the case. In fact, you see Midi is all the way upstairs inside of open area, and it looks for the time being that most of the sites are actually completely vacant. You got Abreu upstairs as well, with Velvet not too far off. You've got Midi up top too. This is peculiar. Very peculiar, which is only going to add to the fact with how strange Red Devils went through this ban phase.
You can see Abreu getting prone here with this 44 mag. The new scope on the pistol. You see another Twitch drone being sent in here from Nesk, trying to disable any Valkyrie cameras or possibly any Evil Eyes. I mean, he's going to take a lot of damage and then TK his own smoke. I don't know what in the hell just happened topside, but Nesk is going to collect the first kill on the behalf of Team Liquid onto Abreu. So there goes your Kaid, your Maestro from Midi. It's on about 10 HP as well. Your smoke has been TK'd. Okay, bad start.
Yeah, from bad to worse. And now Midi, look at how low he is in HP. He's going to go back into the default spot for a Maestro to play on, and he's going to be in a heads-up contest against Nesk, who, even at full HP, you don't want to be in that position. Down goes Zion. Nesk makes as just an efficient shot as possible. Though, look at how much HP he loses in the process. BNX performed some Pretty incredible feats as the Valkyrie last week against Ninjas in Pajamas, but he's got a different foe to go up against this time. He's got a full team of Team Liquid, with his entrance back in towards the sites being watched and guarded quite heavily by Nesk inside of Garage. VNX is going to give his position away, and Liquid will circle, begin their assault on the actual site. Zig going with the diffuser, successfully planted, and even though there's one kill from VNX, he's not going to be able to escape. He's jailed behind those bars, and it's Nesk who's going to keep his stay inside of that prison cell a little while longer. Liquid will take round number 1.
Well, like you said, from bad to worse on that round for Red Devils. Vacating the site for a majority of the round and trying to employ this roam topside inside of open area. The retreat was not successful. They didn't contest Nesk inside of Garage at all. He had free entry within 30 seconds of the round into Garage behind that vault truck, and it's over at that point. I don't think this Montaigne's going to stick here from Sexy Cake. I imagine that'll be another 6-pick off. Just looks like, yeah, there he goes. On to the Hibana. He's just going to keep bringing something that looks really, really annoying to deal with if you're a defender, and then get the hell off and get back onto your job, which is play your Hibana, open up your hatches, Zig will open up your walls, and VNX already making one alteration to the strategy, and same thing with Midi actually putting an Evil Eye inside a Garage to have better visibility towards Nesk. But if Nesk is playing the Twitch and the Evil Eye's in there, that's hard to defend, especially if you're banking on that to just be your visibility. 2 zaps from a Twitch drone, and there goes your Evil Eye. I guess that could be your intel that, hey, we lost the Evil Eye, so it's got to be Nesk in Garage. But that seems like a lot of utility sacrifice just to have that kind of intel. For the side of Red Devils as well, we didn't get to see what the hell happened inside of open area that resulted in the smoke of Velvet getting TK'd. But I imagine it was pure pandemonium and just a rapid attempt to escape.
But the big question is, who was Midi firing at? Because it didn't look like anybody from Liquid lost any HP. So you get taken down from that, but who was on the receiving end? That's the question that I would like answered. I mean, it's something that you can go back and rewatch at some point and possibly see if there wasn't an encounter that happened that we weren't aware of or privy to. So something to keep in mind. The more things change, the more they stay the same. It doesn't matter what operator he's on. Liquid's going to make up, or Nesk is going to take up home inside of this Garage. He loses 1 Twitch drone in the process. And peculiar, which is a word that we've used a couple times today, that he's going to drone himself in with a Twitch drone. Now, usually you want that utility there from the drone to possibly be able to dislodge an Electroclaw, open up an Evil Eye, etc. Possibly even pick at any hard-to-reach Valkyrie cameras that the only other way to get them would be to put yourself in the line of fire. Instead, he's just going to take a contest here against what appears to be the Kaid of Brew as he looks around the wall, unpenetrable. He's got an AUG in his place, so no ACOG. Keep in mind, the AUG was also buffed. Went up to 33 damage now, so even though it is a slower rate of fire, it still packs a bit more of a wallop than it used to. It's not quite the shotgun slug with ACOG that you can see being held by Kaid, so it really comes down to personal preference.
You got Paula isolating any type of flank up to the server stairs, and as I say that, that'll be Paula landing some shots, some crucial ones onto Velvet. Sexy Kick will collect a kill onto Midi as well, so there goes your Maestro early and often these days, as Abreu prone, trying to take an engagement against Nesk, and even with a damage buff, the AUG against the F2, especially in Nesk's hands, the quick peeks are able to bait out a few shots, and he's able to, I mean, stand pat at 100 HP here, so all the power to Abreu if he wants to take this contest, and he's going to have to clear out Nesk. I'd imagine there'll be a second defender coming in for the pinch here at a moment's notice. Abreu's still in hot contest, and Zion will take down Sexy Cake topside after he's able to open up a hatch. So, still facilitating part of his role there, but Sexy Cake will be gone, and Nesk smarter than to take that first engagement. A great flick onto Abreu, and there we go. Reading him beautifully as he tries to dart around the door frame, but nonetheless, the F2 will always hit its shot. Abreu will fall, and now it's another man disadvantage here, but VNX on a quick trade, pulling off miraculous efforts as he did last week. PSK on an immediate trade again. We go back and forth down to a 2v2. PSK and Zig last alive as they try to pressure in through server and main stairs. VNX with a beautiful snipe onto main stairs onto PSK. It leaves Zig last alive, carrying the diffuser in behind the server rack. Right behind him is a Valkyrie camera, so no doubt that VNX and Velvet are well aware of his positioning. Shots rain in from the red hallway, just enough to push him back behind the rack, and he's going to bait in for the push here from Velvet as he walks into the site. The Nitro Cell at his doorstep. VNX again. The hard carry for Red Devils, doing some work here against Team Liquid. We equalize at 1-1.
VNX really showing his prowess as a means of letting teams know of his skills. And boy, what a performance, especially against PSK there. Good read, and that was information that just kept being relayed to the rest of his team, and he was able to make some changes in the way that he was playing and the angles he was holding. And the pre-fire landed onto PSK. Unlucky for PSK, but still, ultimately, a much better round from Red Devils. Now they're going to transition to open area. Banks meta is very much unresolved, is the word that I would use, up in the air. It's got 4 sites that some teams will argue are more viable than others. Open area doesn't see a wealth of play, but on the North American play day that we just had, we saw it come out twice. We're now already seeing it, only 3 rounds in here too.
And this was the same thing for week 8. Was the last time I recall anyway seeing a Latin American play day with a bank on it. And that was the game between Pain and INTZ that resulted in a draw. And I think we saw open area 4 or 5 times in that game out of 12 rounds. So more than a third of the game was played on open area. It just seems like staff open area is coming back into form. It was one of those sites that it came out as an off pick, honestly, mostly popularized by the team that was once known as Flipside. And then it fell out of form for a minute, it came back, it fell out. Like you said, very unresolved meta on Bank, and it's really, really region dependent as to whether or not teams prefer one specific rotation of sites compared to another. CEO sees a lot of play these days, and yet we have yet to see it so far. And I don't recall seeing too many CEO defenses in that game between Pain and INTZ. For this distribution, though, and this has been the common theme for these open area defenses, is that you're playing markedly horizontally instead of vertically. Saw a little bit of a roam factor coming out on their CCTV and lockers defenses on the side of Red Devils, but for open area and staff room, you're going to extend extremely horizontally. Midi, the lone roamer top side, it's an Ella with the Scorpion, and he's just getting shredded from multiple windows on a crossfire. Now, that actually looks like it's Ness who's made his way in, and he'll collect the kill, and Midi will fall. Good entry there from Ness solo, but the drones from the rest of the team able to isolate off Midi, and that's one of your most lethal close-range operators on the defensive side removed from play.
I was wondering if the Ella was going to stay around or not. Originally, Midi had picked the Ella and then moved on to the Vigil during the pick phase. And I mean, if you're going to be playing at close quarters, the Scorpion is a pretty good gun to be able to hold that angle. It's got a absolutely incredible rate of fire. It's a bullet hose under most definitions of the term. And while it doesn't do the most amount of damage, it's still going to shred through you. Now, this was just bad decision-making from Nesk, who lingered a little bit too long over much of the floor that he had opened up, and probably wasn't expecting Abru to be underneath him. Possibly be a scene for another SAS operator to lose their life, as it appeared that PSK was going to rappel on in and possibly sit over top of all the openings that were created from the sledge. Now, keep in mind that was the only set of frag grenades for Team Liquid. With no Jaeger on the board for Red Devils, those could have had quite a lot of value to them, but will, of course, be removed for the time being. Liquid's upstairs on that second floor, and they've got complete control. You see the EMP blast go off, and then there, too, will be a hatch just over top of Zion. Sitting and waiting, actually daring the contest above him, but he looks the wrong way. Possibly expecting somebody upstairs. It's Zig, who's going to look in a completely other direction, as he might have another body downstairs in the office just outside of open area, as that's Abru's position there with a rotate hole, too, actually, to be able to join the Valkyrie of VNX inside a staff area. The other member of the team that's off-site right now is Velvet, who's just holding down the main stairs. 30 seconds to go. He's in a powerful position. Could possibly open up that castle barricade and burst onto the scene if need be. But given the fact that you've sequestered the 2 defenders inside of that admin office, it's going to be very difficult for them to be able to work their way out. And Liquid now inside of open area, just walking around. Sexy Cake holding 2 separate angles, flitting back and forth, waiting to see if Zig will join the party. 15 seconds, and a lot of malaise right now, but there you go. Palu above, he'll cut down Velvet. This will prompt Abru out, but he gets shut down, and it's PSK and Palu to clean up. 2 important kills for Liquid as they'll put the round in their favor, and they answer back after a disappointing second round to Red Devils on a bit of a slow round that really culminated in that final 15-second push.
Slow push there from Liquid, not really punished by Red Devils, and that was Red Devils, I mean, being a little too content with their positioning and not really wanting to stretch out and take an engagement. There was that one shot up to the floor from Abreu, which was really nice onto Nesk, but other than that, well, wasn't a whole lot being done there for Red Devils. They made their bed, And they tried to sleep in it, and Liquid weren't having any of that. We go to CEO now. I talked about a site that didn't really expect to see a whole lot out of, but hey, we are heading there nonetheless. It's RDevilS in their 4th defensive attempt, and will now evacuate their staff and open area defensive selection. Tried it once, didn't really work. This is a scary prospect, though. You've got Sexy Cake now bringing in the Ash to add just more firepower to this roster on the side of Liquid. Paula's still rocking the Jackal at every turn. Means that roaming is going to be a nightmare for the side of RDevilS, even without a Nomad. Jackal's still the superior roam clear on Bank, especially bringing those smokes.
Yeah. I am kind of surprised with how much we've seen the pick rate of Dokkaebi fall off, especially for Liquid, who uses her quite a bit. It's Sexy Cake who usually is the one playing the Dokkaebi, so instead you've got her on far more of a frag-oriented role, which is right now the Ashe. Funny to see Sexy Cake on an Ashe when Nesk is playing the Sledge, but that flexibility from Liquid needs to be there. And really what I think this matchup is for Liquid more than anything is a confidence booster. You know, the last 2 play days for Liquid have been a great disappointment. You saw the tweets that were sent out from Liquid members after their matchup last week in which they knew that not being able to get a victory against Pain was a loss in the grand scheme of the standings. I think that's right now objectively true, given the fact that Liquid is now playing a match that doesn't really have much of a purpose outside of seeding because they're not any longer in the playoff hunt. For this team who are still trying to adjust to putting PSK back on the roster, well, they need the opportunity to pick up a big victory. Not that a victory over a team that is yet to find a single point in the second half is a big victory, but it's still one that they need to have. If they struggle to RDevilS, I think it just further shows the issues that Liquid will need to address over not just the next play day, but also over the off season while the rest of the league or the 8 teams fight in Milan. Because keep in mind, you still want to qualify for the major in America.
You can see Abreu contemplating launching that Nitro Cell over instead of Velvet using his impacts for a trick. You still got these Kaid Electro Claws on the wall, stalling out any breach potential in towards CEO, and Quick Peek's coming out through this tiny little hole in the side of the conference room wall, and Ness is going to whip out the frag grenades. This is a good identification here from Liquid that despite Jaeger not being banned out, RDevilS not electing to run it and collect a kill onto Abreu. So that was actually the Nitro Cell that could have been used to absolutely put an exclamation point on this round. Pre-fires from Paula. Not going to connect on a midi as he's going to pre-fire his backside out of there. One attempted breach here from Zig will be countered with an impact grenade. It seems to be from VNX, as you've also got Velvet possibly with impact grenades. Mini's still... I guess he's got his hill he's going to die on inside of the janitor closet. He's not going to back off and try and play it from range. The peeks from Paula, though. PSK will get down, but Zig will collect the kill onto Zion down the hall. So now a revive coming out onto PSK outside on the balcony momentarily as Paula will have to evacuate. And Nesk is ready to push up as this entire conference room table room, it's vacated by RDevilS. One flank, though, coming from Velvet towards the elevator hallway.
Mini has 30 seconds to just try and hold this one angle with Velvet tasked with holding another. All the way down the hallway, just waiting. That'll leave VNX inside of the site here. He's going to guard the opening that was created by Zig. There's not a lot of HP on a number of members of Liquid, so this bullet hose that Mighty is still holding this time, instead of it being an Ella, it's going to be a Maestro. Could potentially be quite lethal. Oh, the spot, an elevator given away, and there's Midi along with VNX, and RDevilS are just taking this round by storm. Sexy Cake in, though. He finds one kill, looking for the other. Position known to the Legion. There he goes. He's just going to find Midi with Nesk still there, and Liquid managed to take a round that looked like it was going to be going in favor of RDevilS. It felt like the tide started to come in, and then out of nowhere, both Nesk and Sexy Cake worked together well enough to be able to give Team Liquid their 3rd round. A dangerous round, though. And one that the scoreline won't show how close it ended up being.
No, that round, if you just look at it on paper, it looks like a lockout for Liquid, and that RDevilS incapable of defending topside. The actual round being played is an entirely different story. That was a good response there from RDevilS to the insertion from Liquid, trying to press in and finally make that site push, trying to convert into a site execute, I should say. It'll be a 6-pick again for Sexy Cake onto Hibana as they're anticipating the defense being downstairs for RDevilS. That's exactly where to be. Almost identical operators coming out once again for RDevilS downstairs, and this strategy just has not worked out so far for them. It's gotten them 1 win. They're 1 for 2 on it, but again, very it was on the backs of VNX last time they defended down here, which was kind of the story last week as well, was, okay, VNX is going to be our saving grace here, and he's, again, leading the charge right now in terms of frags. For Red Devils, honestly, you got to stop letting Nest get into Garage. That's priority number one, because if you have that pressure from the backside for the entirety of the round with zero contest, it's not going to be a fun time trying to facilitate any kind of rotates through Red Hall, through lockers, bottom main. You're in a world of hurt if you let Nest get into Garage that easily. Even if you try and stick someone in there and drop him to 50 HP, but ultimately lose your life for it, at least he's 50 HP. At least you can piss him off with the evil eyes. At least you could have Zion connect with 2 shots and he's down at basically any range. You know, it's doable at that point, but you got to contest Nesk's entry. It looks like Nesk, after I go on my diatribe, doesn't actually care about the Garage this time.
He's going to play it differently. I don't even know if he's been droned in. Used to see the Liquid of old where there'd be 2 drones trying to figure out exactly where Nesk should go. Hasn't really been the case this time. I don't know if that's a direct change with the addition of PSK, but you got to bless your lucky stars of your Zion, because that should have been an easy kill for Nesk. Sees the head of the Jaeger for just a second at the bottom of the stairs. Not able to do much with it.
It's a dangerous game to be playing if you're Zion. He's still playing it too. He's playing with fire right now. There goes the barbed wire with ease from the sledgehammer. Man, I appreciate the game to be played, but that's not your most advantageous position to be in. They have the intel on Nesk playing the top of the stairs, obviously, from those pre-fires, but from the Valkyrie camera that's placed up there as well. A frag grenade will be launched down as well, try and push Zion further back from the main stairs, and that's mostly to keep him at bay, make sure he doesn't attempt to flank up towards Sexy Cake, who will most likely, as we hear everything explode in the background, is grabbing those hatches. So Zion is going to have to work himself out of a phone booth here, stuck on main stairs. The good news is there's no pressure from Garage this time from Nest.
I wonder if they've still got somebody from Red Devil sitting inside of the Garage as well. Seems very likely. Who knows? Not us, that's for sure. This game of cat and mouse that's happening right now at the top of the stairs, it will eventually go in favor of Zion, who just simply wins the contest called Hold the Stairs and not have anybody push you. So a major victory from him as the rest of Red Devils realize that there's only a minute to go. You can get back to the site, begin your successful defense. And they're in.
What happened to Liquid? So Nest is going to collect the kill on the midi, being dropped to 5 HP, but server hatch was soft. They open it up, but they don't watch the evacuation from server stairs. They also have CCTV hatch open, and there's no one playing top control to watch for the retreat. Liquid allowing 2 members of Red Devils to escape back to the safety of the objective for free, and coming down to the dying seconds now. 30 seconds left, and you still have a lot of utility up on the side of Red Devils here, so some miscues from Team Liquid. Even though they're able to remove midi, one of the most heavy-hitting weapons on the defensive side. Sexy Cake with another one onto Abreu, and inside the objective, Sexy Cake dancing around these bullets from Velvet. Nest will collect a kill onto Zion, but the diffuser attempt inside of CCTV. Dig has been down. Now pushing through the hallway. VNX collect the kill onto Nest. Pushing the doorway. Sexy Cake and Paula, though, will lock it out. Miscues abound for Liquid, but Red Devils unable to capitalize in a round that probably should have gone their way.
It's crazy how frantic these rounds have seemed. Like, just, and I'm going to say this, and as a commentator, it sounds silly when you do say this, but just how much stuff is happening at the same time from so many different angles, and there's very little rhythm to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah.
It's just that there's a lot happening that doesn't really seem to be tied together, and especially with the conclusion of that round, you have basically, Red Devils and Liquid all looking in completely separate directions from one another. Mm-hmm. You have these burst out plays that seem to be happening from Red Devils as if Liquid has no idea where VNX is half the time. Similar things go to Velvet, and I don't really know exactly whether Liquid is just falling short on their droning, whether they're not doing much drone work from the mid-round onwards. Could they be losing all of their intel early with their drones dying in the first, minute or so of the round? We refer to it as a drone economy, so to speak. I'm not entirely sure. So it's definitely something that Liquid needs to tighten up on because they've had issues looking well coordinated. There'd be just simply the fact they lost a lot when Gohan stepped off of the team due to IGLing being different now. It's a question that Liquid is going to have to answer at some point, because the potential for Liquid has always been there, but right now they're not hitting it.
My big problem there on that round honestly comes at the side of Liquid, and I like your comment here that everything seems so frantic. Everything seems so disjointed as far as pacing is concerned. It seems like 1 minute, everything in the tempo is slow. Everything is fine. You know, we're still in setup. We're still grabbing hatches. We're still worried about roamers, so we're keeping them at bay. And then an explosion of multiple kills will come out. And then again it dies. And then again it picks up. It's so antithetical to the normal pacing of most games, honestly. And that's been a theme tonight as a whole. For the whole night, we've seen a lot of these really, really sporadic matches where things just explode at a moment's notice and then immediately die off.
Almost look like it's going to happen again with Velvet and Nesk just staring at one another, but Nesk hitting most of his shots onto the railing. Very minimal bullet pen, if any at all, that's going to occur in that area. And how do you shut Nesk down? Well, you call for reinforcements. As the cavalry is here, as Midi will step on up, and they'll just completely give Nesk the end of his life. And the rest of the round off. But Sexy Cake is there to avenge his fallen comrade. Both teams will lose a body. I mean, for Nesk, yeah, you lose the frag grenades, and you lose also the best player in the entire matchup, statistically so far. But for Team Liquid, you lose Midi. You lose those Evil Eye cams, which are now easier to be opened up, and could still see through the smokes that are going to be in the hands of Palu, but you lose somebody to be able to move them and call that information, and probably the best gun in the hands of the defenders as well, with the Alda no longer being available.
That's my big problem with this setup for Red Devils, is this roaming Maestro. Such a powerful anchor operator, and yet he's always roaming and always dying first. Whether he gets a kill or not, it's kind of irrespective to the rest of the round, because he can't utilize his Evil Eyes, so all they're really there to do is be bulletproof Valkyrie cameras. You already have a Valkyrie being run, you have Zion on the pulse. Like, you have enough intel at that point. You need straight up plant denial at that point, and that's what the Evil Eyes are intended to be, especially with the Alda. The Alda at range, 81 rounds, never-ending magazine with incredible fire rate and limited recoil. I mean, that's your favorite weapon to have in a defender scenario, trying to stall out a plant. Speaking of stalling out a plant, though, we're 30 seconds left in the round, and now Liquid are still amassing atop hatches. Smokes come out, and once again, PSK will actually be the one to be down in the default plant spot, but Zig is still getting the plant down right up against the reinforced wall of Red Hall. Abreu about to turn the corner, will be cut down by Sexy Cake as the plant is completed by Zig, and you can hear all of those Legion mines being triggered, but Velvet unable to capitalize on that information either. You've got two members stacked on each other inside of Vault, looking to bust into CCTV from Red Hall. You still have Zig prone on the diffuser and cover from up above. Sexy Cake, Overwatch will take down Velvet, and now VNX will fall. Last man alive is Zion as he vaults straight into the crosshairs of Zig. The waiting arms collecting the kills. Liquid up 5-1 at the half. It's a devastating first half for Red Devils.
Big round from Zig. Huge round from Zig. I think you can really say that won and lost off of his play. Foregoing the default plant spot, going over to a spot that we've seen a number of teams plant on, which is when you have the safety of a reinforcement behind you, you're sitting in the smoke, and you just saw it in that at the very end of that round. You can't lean around it to kill the person in that plant spot. The only way that you can stop it outside of any kind of plant denial is a C4. With the place that the Pulse was playing in, inside of Gold, I don't think he saw Zig on his sensor at that range. It certainly didn't look like he was interested in going towards that area at all, and there was no call being made that Zig was getting the plant down there. I think the assumption was that they were going for a plant in the secondary smoke, which was in the default spot next to the doorway of CCTV. Good play from Zig, and then he just goes prone, but you can't give all the credit to Zig because he had Palu above watching. Palu was able to hold down the only place that Zig was vulnerable to, which was the push from outside of the vault through the doorway into CCTV. And with the C7E, a good gun, and a pretty good player, and Palu watching that, Zig could focus on one singular area, and it's a good team effort like that. Makes the day. And even though they lost Nesk early on, the rest of the team recovered. I think that goes to show the depth that Liquid can have in a lot of those scenarios, and it worked out. It worked out quite well. So, as you said, a disastrous first half for Red Devils. did not look good on a number of those rounds, though some of those rounds were much closer. Two in particular that jumped to mind that really could have gone in favor of Red Devils were rounds 3 and 4. That was on open area and then the CEO upstairs, where it seemed like Liquid really won it by the skin of their teeth and could have gone either way. We'll see now what Liquid can muster up on defense as we'll switch sides, and unsurprisingly, the very first sight will be downstairs on CCTV. And would you look at that? It's going to be a Monty on the board. Zig is going to confront the shield, and, well, what are you going to do? Well, you got a smoke on the board, that Sexy Cake. You can possibly bait out your canisters earlier on, but that's likely what Velvet wants. The first toxic canister is actually going to reflect off of the shield of the Montaigne, do no damage. There's going to be a bit of a pause from Liquid as they're going to move on back and realize that at some point you're going to probably have to concede the server area unless Palu is able to put a couple of the goo mines down there because you don't have a lot to stop the Montaigne.
No, if you're Paul in this position, you want to start stacking goo mine. It looks like Velvet is still going to be a nuisance. Try and push his way in headstrong. There's no one with him, though, and that's the big shock here for Red Devils. It seems like this is a distractionary tactic just to draw in the ire and all the utility away from Team Liquid. He's not really doing anything. He's not taking any damage, but he is doing a good job of absorbing up a lot of the ammunition and utility on the side of Team Liquid. Big concern for me is where the rest of Red Devils are. As Zion is pushing in, you have two members to contend with upstairs. That's Nesk and Paula on the Legion and the Valkyrie. Zion alone as well. You know, you have VNX over by Printer Window, but there goes Nest taking down Zion. There goes your Jackal, and there go your smokes, more importantly. Velvet still has a couple smokes, but he's cordoned off right now inside of this server tunnel. He's now being zapped from behind by the Evil Eye. This is a very disjointed push from Red Devils so far that hasn't really been able to make any progress.
With a Montaigne, the fact that they are languishing the way that they are, it's very peculiar, and they have very minimal interest in finding out the rest of Liquid. But this is just good gunplay from Midi, but even better from PSK with 2, and Sexy Cake one of his own. There's another body nearby, but it's going to be a rare miss from PSK with VNX on very minimal HP to fetch and retrieve that diffuser at the top of the stairs to go down to server. But he's got Nesk lording over top of him. That's an easy kill for Nesk. And that's going to be match point for Team Liquid, who seems to want to send the fans home early.
You know, it's bittersweet to see Team Liquid perform this well now. Granted, like you said, against a team that has been not great in the second half, if I could be a little reserved in my judgment of Red Devils.
You may be reserved.
It's tough to see Team Liquid perform so well like this because it's great to see, right? It's great to see them bounce back. But man, where was this 2 weeks ago? Where was this last week, right?
Where was this last week is the bigger question for
me.
Because last week you had every opportunity in the world up against a team that has been just as bad, maybe a little bit better, but for the most part, almost as bad as Red Devils have been. And I mean, I understand that you don't want to hear the words "a team has been bad," but to go 0-0 and what appears to be 0-6.
Yep.
That's not a great stat.
It's not good. So what's the opposite of good?
It's not great. And a lot of the success that Red Devils have had over the last 2 weeks has largely been VNX's success.
Yeah.
It's not even necessarily the team playing around him, it's how he himself has played when in situations that just scream of desperation. And he has been able to keep some of those rounds close. Against Nip, he did it in particular, 1 or 2 rounds where he single-handedly won them. You saw similar things here in the matchup against Liquid. And I think when we look back and do a bit of a, I suppose, a post-mortem or an autopsy on Liquid's season, you'll look back on that INTZ and Pain matchup as being incredibly good opportunities that Liquid dropped. Think about it. In Liquid's 4 remaining games, in a season, 3 of them are against the 3 lowest ranked teams and the Ninjas in Pajamas. And when you've got Ninjas in Pajamas as your final game, you could conceivably put yourself in a position by picking up every single point against Ints, Pain, and Red Devils, so that matchup against Nip doesn't even matter. But there was a missed opportunity. It was a loss to Ints and then a tie to Pain. And what could have been 6 points ended up being 1 point. And I think that's where the season for Liquid really fell apart. And as well as they're playing against Red Devils, it's far too little and far too late.
So the collapse here for Red Devils seems to be onward and never ending. They're now at the behest of Team Liquid to either throw 5 rounds in a row, or we're going to wrap this thing up with a nice little bow and give us our send-off for Team Liquid fans with a dominating win. They are bringing the Finca, and they are overcharged. And, oh, it's actually quite sad that an MPX came within a breath of dropping Velvet, even though he's overcharged. 2 consecutive kills again to tack on for Red Devils from VNX and Midi. Sexy Cake and Paulo are both felled, as well as Nesk. Bringing the aggression here for Red Devils might grab them 1 round, but you still have PSK and Zig to work out of this halfway through the round.
And I mean, you know, you've got the 2 more support-oriented players as Sexy Cake has moved off of a lot of that support role, and he's been a bit more aggressive recently, but it's tough when you look at the lineup that you see from Red Devils. The one thing that will go in the favor of Liquid is this. You've got Zig anchoring down on the Maestro. The best gun that is probably in this round is now in the hands of Zig. You've taken out the only set of frag grenades with Velvet gone. You've also taken down the Adrenal Surge. But you've still got the X Factor, which is VNX, or the VNX Factor. Oh, I really should have said that, shouldn't have I? Oh, well, next time. You've got the VNX Factor still in play. The Castle Barricade will blow up, and all that dust will somewhat obscure the vision of Zig. And speak of Midi, there he is. PSK is going to shut down Zion. PSK looking for another. He's going to have to watch against a rotate hole and a secondary opening as Abrew does his best to be able to get that diffuser down. Midi will show up. He'll pick up the final 2 kills needed for Red Devils. That round was won and lost in the first minute of action. 3 kills from Red Devils coming out, and there being almost no hope of recovery from Liquid. We're still going to sit on match point for Team Liquid, but this is where, as a team, I said, this is a confidence booster. This is a try to iron out some of those issues, you know, work out the kinks, and then head into next week against NIP to possibly play a spoiler to a team who is looking to make it to the playoffs and has 1 game left to be able to accomplish that. Because no matter what happens in that matchup, I mean, we're going to have to go to the 3-way tie, because I don't want to actually say this, but I was going to say no matter what happens between FaZe and Immortals, but if they draw and NIP wins and they all sit at 28 points, we'd have to really dive into that one.
Yeah, I don't think I could do the math offhand right now in the middle of the
It ends up becoming a mini league where it comes down to all their matches against one another. Very similar circumstances that North America found themselves in, had reciprocity won the last play day, and then, you know, Space Station had a 1 as well, but it didn't end up coming to be. So instead of going with open area, Liquid is going to go upstairs with CEO. This is the decision that I would have made if I was Team Liquid. You know, CEO is right now the 2nd best site on this map and the 2nd most played site for a lot of teams. So go up top to CEO and, you know, strike a dagger through the heart of Red Devils. Instead, they go to open area, which is a site that, while nice to see from time to time, doesn't always end up being a site that is easily defendable and tends to go bad for teams if they're not the most well-practiced on it. That's exactly what happened with Team Liquid. So they can end it here on CEO upstairs.
Yeah, that last round here, and we're bringing an identical composition for Red Devils here as far as the operator is concerned. I imagine the intensity and aggressiveness of the round will also mirror what we just saw. It's kind of just prolonging the inevitable here, as Red Devils have had flashes like this before where they seemingly get a little angry. The ire drives them to collect a few rounds off of just pure frustration, and then eventually it sputters out, and there's not enough gas left in the tank to keep that kind of pace going through the entire game. They've already surrendered the possibility of getting 3 points out of this, so you're most likely going to be heading into a game against the 2nd seed in Challenger League. There's still 1 game left next week. Try and push yourself out of that 7th spot and retain your spot for sure for Season 10. But Season 9 is over for both of these teams. Team Liquid looking to, like you said, put a dagger in this and send us all home. Velvet repelled out on the north windows. We'll have something to say about that as he's waiting to find Paulo. He's actually able to land a shot through that wooden barricade, but tapping away at shoulder level instead of head level. Paulo will juice himself back up, and he's going to get back in the fight here. Yeah, he's standing up. He's trying to identify even where those shots came from, as Velvet landed those from the north lobby windows instead of the typical north repel outside of the objective of CEO. The rest of the clear again for Red Devils, and geez, Paula continuously taking damage through these walls of the LMG from Velvet on that Finca. And he's being a nuisance, but all he's really doing is forcing Paula to use up some stim pistols here, as he's used 2 to get back to 100, but we've eclipsed the midway point in the round, and Red Devils have yet to really garner any map control.
Red Devils is very singularly focused on these windows. You'll likely try to have Abrew come and take the CEO walls, but do they have a safe way on in? It sure looks like it, as Liquid is very fixated on those windows in which Red Devils tend to be on repel on. A little bit too late there. It actually looked like Sexy Cake might have been able to get that, but the impact grenade does not happen at all. We might have been able to get the second exothermic charge as Velvet will open things up. Say goodbye to Palu. Abri doesn't have any exothermic charges left as he sits next to his work, proud father of those openings inside of CEO. Both impact grenades from Sexy Cake proved to be unsuccessful. So allow Red Devils to walk right on in as Velvet will pick up his second kill. I don't know exactly what is going on here, but you can't hit the Adrenal Surge when you got the Goo in your foot, so he's going to have to pull that out at some point. There's Nesk in a contest. We'll manage to win, taking out Zion, threading that needle, so to speak, around those marble barricades. His words are very difficult, and the plant goes down quite successfully. There's VNX to cut down Zig, and Nesk will find yet another onto Abru, but the timer will now be working against Liquid. Another kill for VNX will leave PSK in a 1v3, and he's going to go nowhere. VNX is there, and Liquid have now lost 2 in a row. They're going to go back downstairs to CEO, which is really nice, because it appears to be the only site that they are capable of winning right now.
Again, prolonging the inevitable, it seems, unless Red Devils are about to initiate one of the greatest comebacks in Pro League history in a game that ultimately means nothing, which is kind of sad. But for Red Devils, I guess you still have the possibility of a point here, but it's a daunting task in front of them to be able to pull this off. Like you said, you're going to go back downstairs to lockers, and Liquid are, again, going to try and wrap this thing up with a nice little bow. But Red Devils, they like this composition. They like the Finka. They like the aggression. They like really, I guess, okay, never mind. Oh, they're going to bring in Ying, though. Okay. That's a bit of an interesting swap off there, as PSK is bringing the Jaeger and has absolutely zero intentions of six-picking off of that. But nonetheless, you do have a little bit of utility on your side to try and burn out ADSs, but honestly, not a lot, actually. You want to keep the smokes on Zion. You could utilize stuns and impacts from Midi's Lifeline. Could have flashes on Abreu, but that's kind of it. And typically your Thermite has a Claymore. I mean, because it could go back and forth, but actually there's not a lot of really utility you would use to burn out ADSs here. This could actually be a bunch of Ying Candelas getting caught out by ADSs and ultimately being the fork in the road for Red Devils to have to contend with. Especially if they're going to bring that pace. If they're going to dictate the entire push off of, hey, let's rush, let's bring Ying, let's throw out Candelas, let's blind them all, and let's gun them all. If all 3 of those Candelas get caught by ADSs, are they just going to turn around, kind of like we saw in the first game from FaZe? 4-man rush up yellow stairs? Yeah, no, they have a clash buy. This could be a problem.
I think we got to give a lot of credit to Red Devils just trying so many different things, right? The Finka rush twice in a row now. You're bringing Ying, the first Ying that we're actually seeing since her change. So speaking of, let's just reiterate for people who haven't read the patch notes about Ying's changes. When you throw a Ying Candela, the way it used to work was that it would activate immediately, but it would be really weak. If you charged the Candela, it would take a while to detonate, but it would be so much stronger. In this case now, if you just throw a Candela without charging it, there's a delay, as you can see. It takes a while to go off, as exactly we just saw from Velvet. So now the mechanism is reversed. If you want it to go off really strong and go off immediately, you have to hold it. Very similar to a frag grenade. You can't just toss it and hope for the best.
They also make that just terrible, terrible noise.
That hellish scream? That sounds like a banshee.
Remember when that used to play non-stop if you died while it was going off?
Yes, I do.
That was not a fun time. Hopefully, none of the members...
my favorite times, Robert. Don't speak for me.
Okay. Hopefully none of the members of Team Liquid have to experience that in this specific round or at all in this game. As you've got that server stairs hold pretty entrenched right now with PSK with double ADSs at the top of the stairs, and hopefully they learn from Red Devil's mistakes and actually reinforce the hatch, and they did, but nonetheless it'll be Abreu taking that down with an exothermic charge. Still have Velvet on about 80 HP. Paul is taking a hit as well, but for the most part, in almost 2 minutes of this round, not a lot's happened. You've opened up some hatches, you've gotten your top control, you've locked down potential flanks from Team Liquid, but for Red Devils, you gotta get a move on here.
It was PSK who was playing on these stairs last time with that 416 carbine. They've switched things up, put Sexy Cake in that position. A lot more difficult for him to be able to deal with it against this toxic canisters. There go the Candelas, and there goes the Ying. Down goes Velvet. Sexy Cake is going to push on up, and he might see the body. There he will. Down goes Midi. Zofia fell at the top of the stairs, and Liquid, who had lost 2 in a row, were looking like they should have been decently worried about their chances. We'll find it pretty good odds. SexyCake is going to just completely sit in the smoke for the time being and go back up to the top of the stairs. Oh, he'll grab the kill, despite the fact that easily should have been Zion's, and very courteous of the Thermite to have opened up that hatch. Abru falls, speak of the Red Devils, and he shall appear. There's VNX to get 1 kill, but he's the only member left of his team, and it looks certainly, with the time left on the clock, this will be Liquid's, and Zig will ensure that, as Red Devils will go 0-6 through their 6 games in the second half. And even though the season essentially is over for Liquid, no hopes of playing in Milan, they'll still put 3 big points on the board. As we've mentioned a number of times, they can play spoiler to Ninjas in Pajamas in the matchup next week. We'll see if they do that. For the time being, it's a 7-3 scoreline for Liquid to end the day. Very few people doubting the fact that you were going to see Liquid win this matchup, given Red Devil's track record, but given Liquid's track record over the last 2 games, there was some doubt, assuredly.
For Red Devils, I mean, you still can't get the ball rolling, and that is just kind of heartbreaking for them. They still remain in the 7th spot now. Even if they got the draw out of that after it was 6-1, you still would have been in the 7th spot. So it's a tough road here for Red Devils. Looking ahead to next week for Red Devils, as far as their outlooks, you need INTZ to lose and you need to win. Pain will be auto-relegated, and we'll take a look at the standings just to try and put a nice little bow on the evening for all the changes that have happened.
So you've got Immortals and FaZe Clan starting the day on top. They won both their matches. They're back on top. Ninjas in Pajamas and Team Liquid down below. Liquid unable to make it to the postseason now. There are only 3 points left. That's it. Well, victory gives you 3 points. A draw gives you 1 point, so you do the math on that yourselves. Ninjas in Pajamas still very much alive, though they will need to defeat Team Liquid next week. Funny enough, Teams 1 and 2 play each other next week. Teams 3 and 4 play each other next week. Teams 5 and 6 play each other next week. And Teams 7 and 8 play each other next week. So there you go. Isn't that funny how that works? You can carve that out. It's been a bad season for Pain Gaming, and, well, this is their run coming to an end. It's been a very storied org and a massive org in Latin America as well, who will no longer be in Pro League, as there will be a team that will be bumped up from Challenger League, and that Pain roster will go down.
That's how she goes. You have a bad start, and it's almost irrecoverable.
It's always sad to say goodbye to a team.
Always.
With auto-relegation, it's a bit heartbreaking, especially for some of these players who have been around for ages. But you also have to be sad for Europe, because there's 8 extraordinary teams there, all of whom have proved to be quite competitive, with one of them we'll have to say goodbye to, possibly tomorrow, or rather in 2 days from now, technically. Though it is technically tomorrow, because now it's Thursday here, and EU is on Friday. For people watching possibly in Latin America or in North America, it might still be today.
I don't want to do math, Parker.
It's never tomorrow until you wake up. I think that's the saying that it goes. So, but Europe is going to be on Friday, and you have to say goodbye to one of those teams at some point. There's only 2 play days left for Europe. For North America and Latin America, there's only 1 play day remaining. But that's it for us. So you see us back here for Latin America, same time next week. But we've got Europe on Friday in just about 36 hours or so. Don't forget to follow at ESL Rainbow6 for all of your standings, all of your clips, all of the schedules, updates, and of course, your favorite memes. I'm Intero. This is Flynn. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll be live again for Europe on Friday. Have a great night.